Hello, friends. Welcome to the Witchy Weather Report. How are we feeling today? I hope we're feeling excellent. I am going to be reading for you with the Wildwood Tarot. Really beautiful European foresty tarot deck. Created by Mark Ryan and John Matthews, with card illustrations by Will Worthington. I'm very excited about this tarot deck. I read with it for myself most frequently. It has nudged itself into first place. I usually, or previously, my Everyday Witch Tarot was my go-to for a reading for myself. And that had a lot to do with anxiety and stress level. For me, when I want a reading for myself, I want a reading that is going to make me feel empowered and able to kind of like go out in confidence and do what I need to do to get my life in the trajectory I want it to be. That's my goals when I do a reading, and you probably can sense as I read for other people that those are the goals I try to bring to my clients as well. Obviously, unless someone says something else is their goal. And the Wildwood Tarot has really edged out the Everyday Witch, although it's a deck I still love, just because it is this deep, spiritual, kind of vibe that I find I have been craving. Spiritual without being, in my opinion, like a little over the top. There are decks that I really want to love, and there's something so kind of flowery about their language that I feel like it's like, yeah, okay, this doesn't relate to real life. And I don't feel that way about the Wildwood Tarot. I feel that it really captures something both kind of mythic and mystical, and at the same time the archetypes are very, very intensely relatable. I don't know, we'll see how you like it. All right, I know I've got a couple people tuned in. Good morning. Hey Savannah, hey Grayson, how are you doing? I'm gonna go ahead and share this broadcast in one or two places and also put up my little banner. 1, 2. There's the banner. If you're watching on Instagram, I'm sorry you don't get a banner. But any links you may wish to have, like my virtual tip jar, my Patreon, as well as links to my podcast, Sassafras Cast, can all be found in the link in my bio. That'll open up a link tree for you. It's my first time in a while. How inclusive is the deck? I'm going to go ahead and say not particularly. It's... they're definitely, in terms of gender inclusivity, perhaps fairly inclusive. There's definitely some cards that feel somewhat gendered and some cards that feel pretty gender non-specific, which I appreciate. Allowing kind of anyone to embody the archetype on the card without having to additionally embody some like masculine or feminine thing, with the exception of, cards such as the Emperor and the Empress and stuff like that, which I kind of... that is what it is, in the tarot. Those are actually labeled differently in this deck in an interesting way. And it's pretty white. It's a European-centric deck, so it is a pretty white deck. I don't find it to be appropriative because it draws specifically on European-centric forest lore. So I feel appreciative of that. I feel like there are a lot of tarot decks that... not perhaps with the worst intentions, kind of appropriate like Native American culture, for example, and I don't love it. So that's in terms of like an inclusivity and diversity review, that's what I'll say. Hello, Kimberly. I am doing readings today. I am doing 1 card readings, first for my patrons, and then for anyone else who would like them, as many as I can get to in an hour. Which brings me to my usual announcement. If you'd like me to pull a card for you, please use our secret code. Our secret code is to drop a cat emoji in the chat or write the word meow. And we use this secret code because when people say things like, will you pull a card for me? Which is a totally reasonable question. We tend to get spammers who like search for those exact phrases and come in and start spamming people, which I don't want any of y'all to get spammed. We don't deserve that. So, Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning in. I see a couple people tuned in on Instagram. It's so good to be back. Last month's Witchy Weather Report, I had to cancel because of health issues, which I am still working on. But I'm really grateful that when I made the announcement that I would have to cancel, everyone was so supportive. Everyone in my community was really just kind to me and wanted me to take good care of myself. So I'm really thankful that I have that kind of community around me. And I'm really glad to be able to be back today. All right, I'm going to share this broadcast. I'm going to get into the readings. I know several patrons have requested that I pull a card. So patrons always get to skip the line. I make an announcement for the patrons a couple days ahead. And if you'd like to be included in that, you can visit patreon.com/sassafras tarot, which it should be linked in my bio. And if you're on Instagram, if you are elsewhere, it should be in the description. All right, let me go ahead and share this broadcast, and then let's get started with some readings. First, I'm going to pull a general card for everyone. Good meowing. Hey, Angie, how you doing? Got your meow, Kimberly. So I'm going to pull people's cards in the order they were received. So if you don't see a card yet, don't panic. I go down the list as I get them, including patrons who, like I said, always get to skip the line. They give me that extra bit of support, so I support them in turn. All right, let's share. Share to feed. It's the Witchy Weather Report. I'm sure you all are enjoying this narration as I share this video. Very exciting. So while I'm doing this, I want to ask you a couple questions. Where are you tuned in from this morning? And I want to know how you're feeling. And I want, as you know, if you tune in for any of my other broadcasts, I want the real answer. I don't want a polite water cooler type of answer. I want to know how you are really feeling today. How are you doing today? And I will share, I am feeling in some ways very excited. In some ways, I feel really excited about the trajectory of my life, including my spiritual path and my career path. And in some ways, very frustrated because I am dealing with some health issues right now. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Healthcare in the US sucks. And even when you have insurance, it can be very hard to access care. And I'm not... I'm not a big fan of those challenges of how much you have to advocate for yourself on top of already experiencing health issues in the US. And I'm very, very grateful because I definitely have some privilege. I have white privilege. I have the fact that I have health insurance as a privilege. And the fact that I kind of have a fair level of able to read medicalese or whatever is a privilege. But I'm frustrated, y'all. I'm frustrated with the system, or perhaps more accurately, the lack of system. How are you feeling? This is not about me dumping my problems. This is just about me answering the same questions honestly that I ask you to answer honestly. How is everyone feeling? I want to know. Hydration checkpoint as well. I am drinking from my boat glass today. Look at that great boat. So boaty. I found these glasses at a department store in Brooklyn where I used to live, and I'm like, I wasn't in the market for glasses, but I was like, boat glasses, they will be mine. Okay. Let's see some of these comments. Grayson says, still getting over COVID. I'm sending good vibes because I remember how long it took me to properly get over COVID, even after I tested negative again. No longer contagious, but still sick. I realize it could be much worse, but it's still no fun to be tired all the time. Yeah, absolutely true. I really, it took me weeks to get my full breath back. I'm a singer, so to feel like I had the same amount of air as I had before, and to feel like I could do what I used to be able to do before. And it's not like I run around like climbing Mount Everest, but I do perform, I carry speakers and stuff like that, and feeling like I was able to do those tasks in the same way I was able to do them before. It did take a long time after COVID, and I got the easy COVID. I got Omicron. So I'm sending a lot of good vibes at you, Grayson. Tuning in from Western Australia. Hello to Western Australia. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love that this is an international broadcast. And feeling very sore. I hope you feel better, Kimberly. Savannah's tuned in from Missouri, drinking a delicious hot coffee. Yes, baby, coffee. Priorities. Feeling okay, better than I was last week. Well, I'm really glad that you're improving. Claire says, does coffee count as hydration? Absolutely. Claire says, I feel similarly and sorry you're dealing with it. Well, I'm sending good vibes to you. I hope that I'm sending good health navigation energy to you, because I feel like that's a very particular kind of good vibe. And it says, meow, I'm a hot mess. And I love your entrances. And I'm sending a lot of loves. A lot of loves, plural. Sure, there's more than one kind of love. I'm sending them all to you. Except the creepy love. No creepy love. You're not getting any of that from me. And Anna says, so sorry, Rory. Thank you. I just want to make sure, is everyone hearing me well? I ask because I feel like I lost my audio for a hot minute, which might just be me. I hope it is. Joining the hot mess, still sick train today. Coffee is life. I appreciate all of you. Okay, I'm going to pull a card for everyone right now. I'm pulling a card if you didn't get to hear from the Wildwood Tarot. This is an absolutely beautiful tarot deck that has really become my go-to for my own personal readings recently. Here is our collective card. This is the card that is meant to kind of be a guide and a signpost for us for the coming month, because I do these once a month. 10 of Stones, home. I want to show two things to you about this card. First of all, I want to show you how there's this big pile of stones in an arch. Arches have their own kind of sacred geometry to them. They're a little bit spiffy. I remember learning in history class how in architecturally, when people began building arches, like that was considered a real advancement, because it was like this way of arranging stones in such a way that felt kind of gravitationally impossible, but they all supported each other and it all worked. So I want to point that out. I want to point out that even things that are impossible are possible with the correct support, with the correct arrangement of support. You may have supportive people in your life who perhaps don't know how to support you in the right ways. We need different things from different people. So I want to share that part of you setting up your home base. The 10 of Stones is about home. It's about all the things that keep you grounded. It's also about your legacy. It's analogous to the 10 of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite deck. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck, I should say. I like to include the illustrator. The things that keep us grounded, support's a big part of that. And it's wise to know what type of support you need and to know from whom you can get that support. There are many different types of support you need. Not all of it can be gotten from one person, which is kind of the myth of Western romance. Like, one person will meet all my emotional needs. Y'all, that is a recipe for disaster. It's wonderful to have a loving and supportive partner if that is something that is meaningful to you. It's wonderful to have several of them if you're polyamorous, or none of them if you don't want to have a romantic relationship. But you need different types of support. You need support from peers, people who understand what you're going through in your professional life and in your hobbies and interests. You need support from people who know how to handle you lovingly when you're vulnerable, when you're freaking out, which is a different type of support than the people who will give you a pep talk and be like, come on, get on up, you can do it, right? We need different support from different people at different times. My volume just went down. Yeah, I heard that too, Anna, and I don't know exactly why, but I hope it fixed itself. Please tell me if it went up again, because I heard it go back up. So I want us to focus in this next month on what types of support we need and from whence we can get them. My friend Nico Padden has a very wise expression, which is you can't buy milk at the hardware store. So if you need a certain type of support from someone, continually going to someone you know can't provide that support is never going to make you feel better and is only going to put pressure on that relationship. So if you need milk, you don't go to the hardware store, right? We go to the grocery store for that. Or maybe if we are lucky enough to live in the right kind of area, we go to a farmer's market and get like super awesome, like organic milk. But we don't go to a hardware store. They do not sell milk there. So you want to know where you can get the support that you need. And that's why it's important to identify what kind of support we need, not just that we need support. That is our key focus for the coming month. I also want you to look with different perspectives at your home. This, like, we're looking through this cavey thing, right? This cavey archway at this house built into a tree, which is lovely. And it suggests that there is not one homey shelter, but two. Right? What is this cavey thing? It's important. We're inside it. We're seeking shelter, and yet we're looking at this different type of home. There are different types of shelter that we need. There are times when we need strong stone walls to keep us safe during a storm. There are times when we need a little more flexibility, the kind of shelter that is breezy and simple and allows us to connect more deeply with nature and more deeply with other people. If we look at this in terms of, for me, like I'm an introvert, in terms of social interaction, there are times when we need to go home and cocoon, right? And there are times when we need the support of friends, and both needs are important. So I want you to ask yourself, what is home to me today? What will give me the loving embrace of home? And I want you to ask yourself that question throughout the month, because I think the answer will change. We don't always need the same thing every day. That's normal. It's healthy. Volume is fine now. Thank you. Savannah says, May was the Wheel of Fortune. And we're not a fan. I'm sorry. I think I clipped a little when I laughed because that was a really funny comment. I will show it, and I love it. May was the Wheel of Fortune. And can I just say, fuck that mess. There. Now it's an explicit podcast. I'm here for you. You guys know I curse like a sailor. Yeah, I'm sorry if that was a messy Wheel of Fortune for you. May was a little bit messy for me, and a little messy Wheel of Fortune for me too. Hello, Barry. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for, I'm glad you're resonating with this. All right, so that's our main card for everybody for the month. I'm going to begin pulling cards for patrons. Okay. So let me take a look here. I know I had my friend Ruby texted me, who is also a patron, and her question was, where is this dream job I've been looking for? Ruby has been on a hunt for really fulfilling work that values her as much as she values it. I think we can all relate to that in this current paradigm, how we, unless we're very, very lucky, it's a necessity to earn our living, which is a really interesting turn of phrase, because I think everyone deserves to live without having to earn anything. I think we should just deserve to get our needs met, but in our current paradigm, it's a necessity to go out and earn money to make sure that can happen. And it can be challenging to find work that is both fulfilling and honors who you are as a person, as well as fulfilling that need of like, yeah, but I need to make X number of dollars so I could pay the bills and take care of myself, right? So I think that's a really, I hear your heart crying out, Ruby. I'm going to pull a card for you. And with that exact question in mind, where is that creative dream job? Ruby, I don't know if you probably won't like this, but you might laugh. Your answer is the Mirror. This is card number 12 in the deck. You might notice this is an unusual minor arcana card, a major arcana card. It is not, the Mirror does not appear in the traditional Smith-Waite deck. Let me share with you what this card is analogous with, but I'm not going to go interpreting that. I'm going to interpret this deck as it is. The Mirror, with her left hand, she holds a crystal ball, the orb of seeing held by the dark woman of knowledge, a figure from humanity's most ancient past. I just thought that was interesting. And I'm just taking a look to see if I can identify what this usually is. In traditional tarot, this card is known as the Hanged Man. And we have chosen to amalgamate aspects of this into the Blasted Oak. That's another tarot card in this deck, which kind of is analogous to the Tower. And while reflecting that the Mirror offers the same dizzy change from one state of being to another. The Mirror is that source of reflection that you get, that unavoidable reflection when you find yourself in limbo, like the Hanged Man. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about how life holds a mirror up to you in ways that are sometimes very uncomfortable. And at that point, we get a choice. I've been facing a lot of this personally lately, and I don't think I'm the only one. I think a lot of people are going through this kind of reckoning. We get a choice to continue doing what we feel has worked for us in the past, or what we have relied on in the past, or to kind of hold our nose and dive into change, even though it's a little bit terrifying. And the Mirror holds up honesty to us. It makes it undeniable to us, like, here's what you've been doing and here are the results you have been getting, and we have to choose what to do with that message. Hello, Pasna. How are you? I will add you to the list. I have a few people on deck for a card. I pull cards for everyone up until noon my time, so for an hour. Or I guess now it's about 40 minutes left. So what I want to share with you, Ruby, is that life is holding up a mirror to you. Life is showing you what you have been trying and what results you have been getting. And if you want different results, which it sounds like you do, and I feel you on that, your first job right now is to look into the mirror with honesty and identify that while you are probably doing a lot of positive practical action to seek out the result you want, there may be things you are doing that are also sabotaging yourself. And I'm not going to lecture you. It's not my job to lecture you. The universe already does that quite nicely for me, and I assume the same is true for you. So I'm I'm going to just refer you back to the mirror, and it's giving you a message of what is and isn't working in your life, and it's your job to sort that out and ask yourself, okay, how can I change my trajectory? This doesn't have to be a big horrible change. Usually it looks like small day-to-day things, because small change is sustainable change. So it looks like saying, okay, every time I do this thing, I get this result and I'm not happy about this result. So at first, really it is trial and error. You're like, well, I don't like the result I'm doing with this, so I'll try this thing. I have no idea if it will work, but I know what I need is something different, and that's how we learn. And that's what the mirror shows us. It shows us what we've been doing and the results that we have been getting. So without self-judgment and without unkindness, I refer you to the mirror at this time. Oh, thank you. Oh, Barry Collins is actually Lynn. Thank you. What gorgeous hair. I'm Lynn, and beautiful color. Oh, cool. It's actually not natural color. It's henna. So it's natural in that it comes from a plant, but it is not natural in that it grows this way naturally out of my head. Thank you. You too can have this natural / not natural hair color. I just hennaed it recently, actually. I love it because it also affects, like, it brings I don't want to say quality of my hair because that sounds a bit judgmental, but it makes my hair more manageable. Let's say it that way. All right. By the way, if you'd like a card, and I did see your request, a couple people, we use a secret code in this chat, and we use it because we want to avoid spammers who look for things like pull a card for me and then come spam people. And the secret code is to drop a cat in the chat, put a cat emoji, or write the word meow. But if you did request a card, don't worry, I got you. You're on the list. Oh, thank you. Lynn says, suits you so pretty. I'm a hairdresser. Looks great. Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. All right, let's take a look here. So that was my first card. I know my patrons reached out with a couple of questions. Grayson said, what should I be focusing on? So let me pull a card for you, Grayson. After that, it's time for a little more hydration. Make sure you're keeping hydrated, especially at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. We're going into the warmer months, so we can sweat and lose water that way. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere and you're going into the colder months, I think we all know as soon as we turn a radiator on how that can dry us right out. So make sure you're staying hydrated wherever you are. It's important. Grayson asks, what should I be focusing on? Grayson, the answer to your question is balance. And I'm going to share that I have issues with the word balance because the truth in my experience is that there is no perfect, pristine balance. There is no thing of like, yes, I have achieved balance, and then you stay that way, because life is moving and we are dynamic characters, right? So what I want to share with you is that balance is about push and pull, like a seesaw. When you arrange things on a seesaw or like a teeter-totter type of thing, and you're kind of, putting different weight on different sides of the seesaw, it's not like, oh, it's in perfect balance and you're fine. It's like you are slowly experimenting to find a healthy equilibrium. And there's still movement in that equilibrium, right? A breeze comes by and you're still, teeter-tottering. And perhaps life circumstances will change and you'll need to rebalance. So balance is a constant journey rather than a one and done kind of thing. So right now you are asked to look at areas of your life that feel out of balance and ask yourself how you can honor them, how you can pay them the attention they need to bring them into balance. A phrase that has been all over my brain lately, in part because I'm a gardener and I've been setting up my garden outside, is what we focus on grows. And whatever you've been focusing on in your life has been growing. Hopefully that's been a healthy focus. And I don't mean this to be like in that kind of dismissive, like your thoughts are things and you make your own destiny and all your problems are your fault. I don't mean it like that. But I do mean that when you focus on your energy on something, that energy, that is real, that movement happens in your life. So whatever you've been focusing on has been growing, and now you're in the place to rebalance and ask yourself if something else needs your focus so it too can grow, so it too can be of import and take its proper place in your life. You know what that is. I don't know what that is. You know what feels out of balance to you, and you probably already have an idea of small steps you can take to address it. And the good news is that's all you need. When you're balancing something, if you have ever made like a mobile or balanced things on either side of a seesaw, you know that it's actually small movements that you want. If you do anything too big, then the whole thing goes like this, right? So you actually want to make small movements towards that balance because that becomes more a sustainable focus of equilibrium. I hope that felt like a good, actionable answer to your question. That's one of my big focuses. As a reader, you all know this if you've ordered a reading from me or listened to me for any period of time. I want people to walk away feeling empowered and feeling like their reading is actionable. I don't want people to be like, oh, well, this is what the fates say. Oh, well, because that's a good way to not take action in your life. And y'all, we only get one life that we know of, right? For all I know, we get many lives, but that doesn't make this life less important. It's really, really worth honoring it, and it's really worth doing everything we can to make it a wonderful one. No one can hand you a wonderful life without you taking some agency and at least defining what that is. We all owe it to ourselves to give ourselves the best lives that we can. In my humble opinion. So let's get actionable, So like instead of asking ourselves what fate has in store, ask ourselves what we have in store for fate. That's the Rory Kelly philosophy. All right. Hannah says, I would love a card about what I should be focusing on this summer, which is going to be both very busy and a time of big changes for me. First of all, Hannah, I just want to send you like a lot of good energy for that, because although sometimes being busy is a good thing, it's a sign of things coming to fruition, right, that we have wanted. But it can be really overwhelming. So I hope you remember to take care of yourself this summer. And especially through changes, even positive ones, can feel very stressful. So honor yourself and make sure that you're setting your pace at one that you can handle. Like it's okay to take days off where you just cocoon. I find that I often need to do that when big changes are happening in my life because my subconscious needs to catch up with how much my external world is changing. So that's just personal advice. Let me pull a card for you about what you should be focusing on this summer. Nine of Stones, tradition. I want to share that for me, this card has come up often when ancestral legacy is at play. And I want to share with you what I mean by ancestral legacy. My cousin and I are both very spiritual and both come from the same line of strong women who have been very creative and smart and yet have been kind of challenged by life. Not that they are kick-ass, badass women, but sometimes life circumstances really get in the way of, bringing your talents and your joy to fruition. And for us, we have a lot of family legacy tied up around we both personally feel that leading a creative and fulfilling life that is marked by our joy rather than marked by us reacting to bad circumstances is kind of a culmination of our ancestral legacy, because that's been something that has challenged the women in our family, and we feel that we will be fulfilling our ancestral legacy and doing right by our whole family if we do right by ourselves in that way, if we honor our creative life. Now, you may have a different ancestral legacy. I bring it up because I want you to know how personal that can be. You're working out something that your ancestors, be they true blood ancestors or be they kind of community ancestors, people who have been in the same situation as you in the past, who I think, come into our ancestral lineage. have grappled with. You're grappling with issues that are bigger than you. So it's important to remember, because it's important to remember, first of all, there's help and there are resources because other people have faced these things before. So we see tradition as a key word on this card. This is like the only deck I like that has keywords on the cards. And I want you to know that you can turn at this point to traditional things that have worked for you, that have worked for your family or your community and your lineage, to help with whatever is stressing you out. And you will find wisdom, perhaps more wisdom than you expect to find there. And I want you also to know that you are free to embroider those traditions so that they work for you in a modern context. And, insofar as that plays into, like, everyone has different paths and stuff like that. So I'm not telling you to go upend, very important cultural traditions, but I'm saying, like, make things work for you. Have also the ability to understand that part of the goal of ancestral legacy is to evolve. All of those who came before you have enabled your path right now, and you growing to your highest potential is truly the culmination of their efforts, is the highest way to honor and respect them. So I know that's really weighty, and I just want you to, what I want you to realize is that what may feel like your little struggle is actually part of something very big and very important. And not for that to be a source of pressure and overwhelm, but for instead it to be something that you honor. And that you allow yourself to say, like, hey, no wonder I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. This is a big, weighty thing. And indeed, turning to big, weighty traditions, turning to things that have traditionally helped with that may help you, rather than trying to just figure it all out on your own. Tiger, you are in 2 spots. What should I be focusing on? Seems to be the patron question for this month. Yeah, it does. And hi, Brittany, by the way. Yeah, it does seem to be the patron question for the month. And it's a good one. I mean, I am in a couple of Patreons where, there are people who read cards or whatever. And often my question is, like, either what should my focus be, or what should my attitude be, or, I remember once asking, I'm in Tommy Kelly's Patreon. He is the creator of the 40 Servants deck, among a lot of other really cool creative things. And I remember asking, like, who do I need to be to create the change I need in my life? And he kind of, in a really wholesome way, read me the Riot Act when that question came up on his podcast. He was like, you need to be you. Like, you don't need to be anyone else to live your life, And so I have evolved into the idea of, what should my focus be? Rather than who do I need to be, I'm probably already who I need to be. So anyway, thank you. I needed to hear that. Now I need to go back to bed. Thanks again. It's nap time. Sleep well, Grayson. Hello, Eliana. I will add you to the end of the list. I get to everyone I'm able to in an hour, but I do have a hard cutoff at 12, and I have some people ahead of you, so I'll do my best to get to you. Okay, let's get back to the patrons. That was Hannah. Brittany also is going on, what should I focus on to better support myself in my time of great need? Not exactly what I want to ask her how, but I can't get better phrasing at the moment. I feel that. And I feel like it is a good catch-all. Like, what? Like, I have people who will come to me for readings, and rather than asking me a question, they'll just be like, help. And I often will ask my clients, like, hey, if you don't have a particular question, you don't have to. That can be a lot of pressure. If you want to just do a brain dump of what you're going through and what you're stressed about, and that can be your question, that's enough. Because sometimes that's all, that's what we're equipped to do. If we knew the right question, maybe we wouldn't need external guidance quite as much. All right, so Brittany, here's your card. Brittany, your card is the pole star, so I really want to pull you strongly back to your calling in life and what that means to you. And I want to clarify this word because I think calling can be, for me, it's a very meaningful term. For some, it can feel daunting. I'm not talking about the way you were meant to make money, which is how a lot of people view it. Although I do feel like it's awesome and valid when we make money with our callings. But I want to talk about, like, your unique gifts that you have to offer this world, whether those gifts are inborn or whether they're a product of things you have been through. Like, some of us, let's be frank, some of us have really strong gifts to offer the world, and it's like a product of trauma. It's because we went through stuff that we don't want to see other people go through. But we have those gifts now, and we can still choose to use them. And that is a way to rise strong from our trauma, right? Rather than to let it define us in a negative way. So what I want you to do, Brittany, is ask yourself this question: what brings my life meaning? And if that is a hard question for you to answer, then I want you to take a pause and ask yourself what has felt meaningful in your life in the past, whether it is an artistic, creative thing, whether it is specific interactions and specific things that you think you can do to help other people, or specific ways other people have healed you. Because I find that when we talk about callings, it's something that goes both ways. The way that I am healed is the way I am meant to heal others, for me personally. And healing is a piece of my calling. It may not be a piece of yours, but it's, something that's important to me. So I want you to try to get back to the basics and ask yourself those things that have nourished you, that you have come back to as touchstones in your life through difficult times. What has gotten you through those hard times before? And I want you to unapologetically and unabashedly throw yourself into them. For me, and I think maybe you can resonate with this too, like when I was a kid, I was a super bookworm. I would buy, my parents were divorced, so I'd go to my father's on the weekends, and we would stop at the bookstore on the way, and I would buy 2 or 3 books, and he literally would be like, I want you to buy big books because I don't want you to run out of things to read this weekend, because he knew I'd get annoying if I ran out of things to read. And that was that was, story was my happy place. It was what made me feel both connected and more like myself. And that's something that I have come back to as an adult at times when I felt disconnected from myself. Like, hey, remember how you used to be a super bookworm and needed to read to kind of find your equilibrium and write to find your equilibrium? That has taken me back to myself. So I want to ask you, what is it that takes you back to yourself? And I want you to unapologetically spend as much time there as you possibly can in these times. Hey, Judith. I think Anna and Brittany are on Twitch, too. Thanks for tuning in on Twitch. By the way, this is live on Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. You can tune in at any of those places, and you can find me by searching Sassafras Tarot at all of them, all one word. So if you don't if you're not enjoying the platform you're on, or if the stream is a little weird, try another one because it'll probably work nicer for you. You are welcome, Brittany. All right. Judith says, meow, I overslept. Okay, let's see here. Savannah says, super bookworms unite. Yeah, indeed. All right, I've got a bunch of humans here. Savannah says, just lurking, no card for me. I want to make sure that I give my patrons that attention. Judith, I think you're the other patron who has asked for a card, so I'm going to jump you to the front of the line, and I'm going to just go down the list of everyone who has sent me a cat. That's our secret code. If you just came in, if you would like a card pulled for you, we drop a cat emoji in the chat or write the word meow. I might, got 20 minutes left, so we'll see how many people we can get to. Hydration. Cheers. Bunk. Judith says, what you having for breakfast? Nothing so far. Doritos. A solid breakfast of champions right there. All right, Judith. King of Arrows. And the Kingfisher is your both animal guide friend and your card. Arrows are analogous with air, so swords. So King of Swords is what you would think as someone who is maybe more familiar with the traditional Smith-Waite system of tarot cards. But I want to draw your attention specifically to the Kingfisher and the precise way that he hunts. The Kingfisher is flying over the water, will dive in at some point and use this ginormous pointy beak to solicit himself a fish. So literally, he is looking down into the murky water and seeing the movement below and timing, and he doesn't do this with math, he does this with his instincts, right? Timing the precise moment at which to dive to come up with a fat, juicy fish. That is his desire. So I want to ask you, how much does timing and instinct play into you getting what you want right now? And I want to share with you that this is a little bit about being emotionally detached. The King of Arrows, King of Swords, is not traditionally someone who is like a big emotional person. This is someone who's like, I'm going to make evidence-based decisions, right? I'm going to use logic and science and rationality and wisdom to make my choices. Now, part of that wisdom is experience, right? In part, the reason the kingfisher can do this and like go zoom down and get his fish is because he's done it a million times. He probably hasn't been successful every single time, but now he has the experience to know this is when to dive. This is how the target looks. Now is the time. And often in life, it's not just about us doing the right things. It's about us identifying the right time to do the right things. The universe doesn't always agree that it's the moment of our, of our glory or whatever. But when things are in place, we need to learn to recognize those circumstances and go for what we want. As well as like we're intelligent human beings, and to some extent we can create those circumstances for ourselves, right? Like the kingfisher isn't going to find any fish if he goes flying through the forest. He's over a lake, right? So we can go to the lake of our heart. We can make sure we're in the place where we're more likely to have opportunities in our lives, and then watch with careful wisdom and patience so that when we see the opportunity, we can be like, boom, I have what I want. So timing, instinct, and sushi. Yes, that. So I just want that to be something that you have in mind as you identify things that you want in your life, change that you want in your life. Don't discount your timing and your instincts. Don't get too emotionally wrapped up. Just assume that if you keep trying to put yourself in the right place at the right time, you will know what to do when the time is arrived. And yes, you can go jump in the lake. That's amazing. Thank you. Claire says Instagram kept freezing on me here now. Kingfishers are incredibly adaptive. Yeah. Brittany says, I just ate a bagel and I'm drinking some Gatorade. Pedialyte and Gatorade are the only things I'm drinking. Here for that. Very hydraty. And good on ya. Because I like try to like Gatorade and it's like... I usually go for vitamin water because it does have electrolytes. It's like grown-up Gatorade. I don't know. I'm sticking to that. Which is not me dismissing people who drink Gatorade as adults. It's just me going like, it's the Gatorade like drink that I feel I can actually enjoy. All right, let's start going down this list. I have good meowing from Angie. Then I have Claire. I saw your cat on IG, so I'll be pulling a card for you next. Angie pulling a card. Angie says, working, hoping phone is quiet. Well, I'm about to pull your card, so we know from experience that means your phone's going to ring, right? Angie, here's your card. Your card is the Woodward, number 11. Look at this. Look at this dangerous guy. You can think of the Woodward as the guardian of the woods. The Woodward has at his side like this feral cat guy who seems to be chilling with the Woodward. As anyone who has ever had a cat knows, a cat can be very chill and cozy with you while at the same time being incredibly dangerous. And the Woodward has embraced that relationship. The Woodward has embraced the relationship of, I honor the wildness in you, and so we can be friends. I don't expect you to be any more than what you are, and you probably don't expect the same from me, and we can live in harmony with each other. And sometimes be a team and sometimes do our own separate thing. It's like this very healthy idea of friendship, healthy idea of relationship, and also healthy idea of what kinds of strength is needed, right? Whether it is the strength to be chill, this cat looks like it might see something that it's interested in. If you've ever had a cat, you know the look your cat gets when it sees like a hoppy bug. And that's kind of like a knowing cat smile. But it also knows, like, I don't need to expend my energy right now until the time is right. Is there a theme in today's readings? Whereas the Woodward, too, he's ready to launch, right? He's got 1 foot forward. You know, he's ready to move forward. He's got his staff. He's looking pretty serious. He's on a mission, but he realizes that impatience and going in all full of bluster are not going to accomplish things. So this is really about having a wise relationship with those around you and with the environment around you. Realizing that going in attempting to conquer, first of all, won't win you any friends, and secondly, might cause you a lot more trouble than it's worth. But going in with your particular intent of this is what I'm hoping to get, and doing so with wisdom and care, as well as conservation of your own energy and possibly allies, is more likely to bring you success. So we're seeing a perspective shift. We're seeing 2 trends in our readings today. Number 1, timing, not wasting our energy when the time isn't right. And number 2, perspective shift. Do we need a new perspective on what we're going after? If the things we have been trying aren't working, is there a more subtle, more thoughtful way we can do it? Can we watch and learn rather than needing to be in action right now because we feel like we're not productive if we're not in action? The Woodward is all about watching and learning. The Woodward lives in the woods in a very, dangerous and wild place, and can do so because he has watched and learned, because he understands the wildness. Kind of like when I go traipsing through the woods in my neighborhood, because there are some woods by me, I am not afraid of poison ivy because I know how to recognize it and how to avoid it, right? I don't hide myself from those things, but I know how to protect myself from those things, and knowledge is power. And that's really what the Woodward has. Knowledge is power. And as well as like a healthy sense of caution. We don't need to like run in crazy pants at what we're going after. We can proceed with caution in order to have true success. Got some comments. Brittany says, I was forced into the Pedialyte and Gatorade since I went to the ER for severe hydration. Haven't been able to get all the way better. I'm so sick of the taste now. Oof. I'm sorry, and I feel you, and I hope you become rehydrated and feel a whole lot better, because I know severe dehydration sucks. I have been there. Sure enough, the phone rang. Of course it did. I'm sorry. Hopefully you can look back. All right, Claire, I'm going to pull a card for you at this time. And then I'll go back up and see who else needs cards. Claire, we have the shaman. Shaman. There are people who have different opinions on this word. There are people who feel it's appropriative. I'm going to go ahead and declare that I don't necessarily have a horse in this race. But that I do feel comfortable with the fact that it's being used in the context of, in this deck, this is like a very Eurocentric folklore kind of deck that does not reach into trying to appropriate from other cultures. So I see this word as being used to simply express like one who is up for a mystic journey. And this would be analogous to the magician in other tarot decks, and reflects that the magician is someone who's very practical, right? The magician like has the tools at his hands and knows how to use them because he has developed the wisdom to do so, has gone ahead and seeked out the practical means of doing what he wants. The magician is someone, and I definitely see this in you, Claire, who is like, here's the thing I want to do. Now I've got to figure out how to do it. Doesn't assume that he can't do it. Doesn't assume that he needs someone to show him. Just like goes and does the research to learn and be then capable of doing the thing. I see this for you like in the way you create your art. Your art involves tech, and you go and seek out the tech and like experiment until you have what you can do at a higher level. Now the shaman acknowledges that there's a journey to that it's not just about like, I want to do this, so I'll do this, not just like pure practicality, but also that with every step that we learn what we don't learn. With every step that we grow as an artist, as a creative person, as a human, we realize how much further we have to grow. And once we're at the place we coveted, we now have the vantage point to be like, oh man, but if only I could do that. And that's not unhealthy. Like, it is unhealthy when we delay our happiness inevitably, but I'm talking about growth right now. It is healthy that we reach the place we once coveted and can now see further to grow, because life is about growing. If you stop growing, like, I'm sorry, that's really boring. I don't feel like that's a good life. Personally, I always want to be growing. And the shaman honors that there's a journey. And I'm going to suggest to you that maybe the shaman has arrived because you were at a plateau in that growth and are wondering what your next steps are. And I want to point you back to your own strengths and point you back to your own ability to identify what it is that you want to do, and then seek out the learning that will teach you how to do it, and then go do it. I want to honor to you that you're very good at that particular journey, and you can be good at it in this instance too. And it's okay if right at this moment that involves getting still and listening to understand what the next part of the journey is. Brittany says, I got to skedaddle. Husband needs to help with stuff. Bye. I see your meows. I am getting to everyone in the order that they asked. So don't worry. I'm getting to everybody. All right. Kimberly had a question. Kimberly says meow. Kimberly from Western Australia. Hello, Kimberly. I'm going to pull up your card right now for you. And on deck after Kimberly is Anna. Kimberly, your card is the Seven of Vessels, and the keyword here is mourning. So this is another example where, if you're a traditional reader, I know we have several who tune in, who is familiar with the Smith-Waite system, there's a little bit of a divergence here from the traditional meaning of the Seven of Vessels or Seven of Cups. Seven of Vessels in the Smith-Waite system really is about choosing between your values, choosing between what you're going to go after, choosing between desires, and the fact that we can't have everything we want, but we can have anything we want, like having to focus in order to achieve. Now, the Seven of Vessels here is about mourning, and I submit to you that it may be about mourning the fact that we can't get to everything. As life progresses, as we open new doors for ourselves, as we grow into the person that we are meant to be, as we honor ourselves in our journey, inherently we are shutting the doors on other journeys, right? If you're someone who believes in the multiverse, maybe there's another you who has taken a completely different yet equally exciting journey. And sometimes we mourn lost possibility. That's what I really connect with this card. I also connect with ancestors, and we talked a little bit earlier about ancestral legacy and the lost possibility for them. I've spent some real time thinking about how strong women in my family had not the same opportunities that I have in life. And I mourn for their lost possibilities and lost opportunities. I mourn for how incredibly smart and creative they are, and maybe what they could have created with more opportunity at their fingertips, with better circumstances. And so I'm going to submit to you that if you need to grieve right now, if you need to grieve a lost opportunity, if you need to grieve something you hoped would work out but didn't work out, or something that could have worked out if only you were in a slightly different position in life, go ahead and grieve. I don't think it serves us to toxic positivity ourselves and bully ourselves into being hopeful and happy all the time. I think it serves us to honor our grief, to honor the fact that sometimes we really are disappointed about something, and we really just need to sit there sometimes and feel disappointed, because that is a reflection of our deep commitment. It's a reflection of who we're meant to be. It's a reflection of our gifts and our values, that it is that important to us. Life wouldn't be worth living if we didn't have things so important to us that sometimes we experience grief. So I want you to be really kind to yourself at this time, rather than kind of trying to jolly yourself up into feeling good and doing the thing and whatever. I laugh in the face of obstacles. It's okay. Those have their place, but I want you to give yourself permission to mourn the loss of possibilities in your life, so that you can then move through it to being an emotionally stronger person, and also an emotionally more honest person with yourself. So you can really honor, okay, I couldn't honor, for whatever reason, I couldn't access this or that possibility, but I know how important it is to me, so I'm going to go seek it out so that I still can get this need underneath it met. And sometimes we need to go through grief to understand how to do that. Just looking to see other people here. Claire says, thank you. It's hard to grapple with artistic goals. Man, I know. Believe me. Hey, Fred, how you doing? It says it's going to rain cats and dogs. It has been raining cats and dogs up here in New York for sure. One door opens as another closes, and Judith says, grief is part of life. True. All right, Anna, I'm going to pull a card for you. And I just scrolled back up and I saw your comment that I missed earlier. Arches thumb their noses to physics. I love that. Be like an arch. Thumb your nose at physics in life. I love, what an inspiration. Anna, Two of Bows, decision. I'm going to ask you, Anna, what is making you burst into flames right now? You came in saying you're a hot mess. Literally hot fire. Ooh, flamey, right? There are certain emotions that make us hot messes. We don't get to be a hot mess if we don't feel strongly, right? It can be desire is one of them. Anger is one of them. Frustration. You know, like there's different emotions that we burn with. What are you burning with right now? And is there a way you can honor that? I want you to treat your burning emotion not as a blank check to be like an impulsive idiot, because I don't think you are that person at all. But I want you to look at that emotion and acknowledge that there is something deep and big that needs to be honored within you, and to begin to take steps to honor it. And whether that is like you're burning over here. So whatever it is, it's big. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's probably an uncomfortable emotion, even if it's like on the positive side of it. Like desire, I think, feels more positive than anger for a lot of people. But when we're lost in either one, it feels really big and all encompassing. And I want to ask you how you can take enough of a step back to ask yourself, how can I honor this deep burning need within me? And I want you to ask if you can possibly make a couple of small steps instead of feeling like, well, I can't possibly do it because everything has to change in order to get this need met, because that's a sure way to not get the need met, right? So I want to ask you if instead of having the attitude of like, this is never going to happen and I'm just going to be miserable, to have the attitude of what tiny thing can I do today to bring my trajectory closer, right? If your burning is pointing you over here and your life is pointing over here, what can you do to just be like, eh? And if you keep kind of doing, eventually you're on the right trajectory. Usually, unless crazy windfalls happen, we can't do it all at once. So I want to ask you to take small steps to honor whatever is burning inside you. That is my invitation. Savannah says, is it weird that watching the Witchy Weather Report totally makes me feel like attending church in a good way? I always get a wonderful dose of spiritual nourishment. Thank you so much, Savannah. That really means the world to me. I have to say I feel that way too. When I spend time in community with you, and you know, if you tune in for my music streams, I feel the same way then. I say it all the time, how on Sunday nights and Monday nights when I go live and do music, how nourishing and healing it is for me. And I think just people coming together with a positive intent of being real and showing up for each other, to me, that is my church. To me, that is where it's at. Anna says, right, thank you. You're welcome. I wish you luck. Okay, who else do we have? Scrolling. We got you, Kimberly. We got Anna. Oh, Lynn's from New Zealand. Hey, Lynn, welcome. Sorry, I'm just seeing some comments that I didn't see before. Oh, and I'm sorry, Anna, because I now see that you asked a particular question. I need to do something that will sustain me. So far, it's been nickels and dimes. I'm done with being poor. I want to drive that home with the Two of Bows. A little bit of bravery is asked of you at this time. a little bit of bravery, and you're asked not to take on the whole enchilada at once. But like if it's nickels and dimes so far, is there a way you can ask yourself, okay, well, I'm good at making nickels and dimes. Like, can we can we honor what we have accomplished? And ask ourselves how we can build on the small, tiny successes to create the big ones over time. So your next goal over nickels and dimes shouldn't be, and now I'm making a living, although probably that's what we want it to be, and I really feel that as a creative person. But maybe your next goal should be like $1. You know what I mean? Like, what you have already been doing something right to make anything. You have already been doing something right to receive any accolades. How can you look at that and ask yourself, is there a way to scale it so I can do it twice as much? You know, is there a way I can make a quarter and then $1? And I'm speaking metaphorically because you said nickels and dimes. You know what I mean? Your heart's work is worth a lot more than coins. Okay. But I want to ask you how you can slowly change your trajectory rather than feeling like you have to figure it out all at once and you're a failure if you don't. And I'll tell you, that's what ultimately led to me quitting my day job. It was not me figuring it out all at once. It was me slowly looking at the numbers and slowly, month by month, doing trial and error to figure out how to make them grow. And it ultimately took a different form than I originally envisioned and is still evolving. And I'm okay with that because I'm trying to get closer on that trajectory every day. Okay, Lynn says, I would love a card. Lynn is next. And actually, it's Upasna and then Lynn is who I have on deck. Let me see if I have anyone else. Upasna, Lynn, Eliana. Is there anyone else on deck? I'm just scrolling to get a sense here because it's noon. All right, that's it. Requests are closed. Lynn, I'm going to pull a card, then Upasna, then Eliana. Red, I'm sorry, it's after noon, and noon is my cutoff, so I can't pull a card for you today, but if you tune in next time I do this once a month, I will get you. Lynn, we have the 8 of Stones, skill. You are being asked to get good at what you're already doing. Another theme that seems to be emerging from the little speech I just gave to Anna. You are being asked to hone what you're already doing, to honor that you're on the correct path. You maybe have already figured out like what it is that you're desiring in this cycle of your life, and have figured out a little bit how to get started. And your job now is just to treat yourself as a student. Treat yourself as someone willing to put in the work, knowing that the sheer experience is going to make you better, is going to answer questions that you have that come up over time, and is going to teach you how to aim higher in ways that may seem out of your reach right now. So that's your goal right now. When you're like, how do I get to from point A to point B? Usually we don't want to get to point B, right? Like usually we're like, no, I want to be at H and I'm at B right now and I don't know the steps. I'm going to tell you that if you just focus on improving yourself one small step at a time, if you treat yourself like a student and put an intention out there for mentors and teachers to come and be open to that being in different forms, whether it's whether it's information kind of finding its way to you through a conversation in an unexpected way, whether it is a literal teacher showing up on the internet that you end up, buying a course from, whether it is formal schooling, or whether it is you kind of watching someone doing what you want to be doing and learning a few tweaks you can make to put you along the way. Sometimes it's that indirect form of teaching. I just want to tell you that if you apply yourself right now as a student of life, you will make progress. And faster than you think. Okay, Upasna, I'm going to pull a card for you. After that, Eliana. And then that is it. We are Dunyans. Okay, Upasna says, love already married. That is the topic of this card. So let me pull a card along the lines of what should your focus be, since it seems like you're in a relationship, maybe not seeking another one, but you obviously need some guidance or you wouldn't be asking for a reading. What should the focus be? Ace of Arrows, Breath of Life. Upasana, I want to ask yourself if you are evolving as a person And if that is affecting your relationship, because that happens, I want to share with you. Like, I'm a married woman, and I'm also someone who I just got done saying, like, I constantly want to learn. That's who I am. And people learn differently. People learn on different trajectories and at different paces. And so I want to tell you that in my personal experience with my husband, there have been times when I have done a lot of learning and personal growth. And as a result, there's felt like a real disconnect between us, because suddenly he's somewhere that felt right to me, you know, a while ago before I did all this learning, and now I'm in a different place. And I want to tell you that part of having a relationship is like honoring that, not honoring, you know, when people are toxic and harmful and refuse to show up for themselves and for the relationship, but honoring the fact that we all learn at different paces, we have different priorities and values in life, and we're going to grow in different ways. When we connect ourselves deeply with someone, such as in you know, a long-term relationship like marriage, the goal shouldn't be for us to stay the same forever. Again, that's boring. It's also unrealistic. Instead, both partners are going to grow, and we should do what we can to honor each other's growth, and not feel pressured to grow along the same trajectory. There are going to be times when your growth is going to seem to be at odds with your partner's growth, and there are going to be at times where one of you seems to have left the other one behind. And if both parties care and are invested in the relationship, it can still, you know, it can still be a healthy one. Understanding that relationships have those ebb and flows, have those times where, all right, there has been change. And sometimes that means like one partner changes and it's like, guess what? Things have to change because I've changed now, and I realize that I need different from my life. That's part of it. You're on a journey with someone. You're hand in hand. So you're like, okay, what can we adjust for you? It has to awaken our unselfishness and our willingness to learn. And both sides, right? Like when you learn and grow and realize, hey, guess what? I need something different out of life. It has to awaken your partner's unselfishness and willingness to learn. But it can't happen overnight for either party. So what I want to encourage you, because this card that came up is the Ace of Arrows. I want to encourage you is, as you're having realizations about yourself, realizations about your life, I want to encourage you to share them honestly and openly, and not to expect your partner to be on the same page, but it is reasonable to have an expectation that they will listen and care about the journey that you're going through. That's a reasonable expectation of any partner, right? That we care about each other's journeys. These conversations are what are going to move you forward, and these conversations are what is going to help you gain a new understanding about each other. Because at the end of the day, my personal view is that the most romantic thing is continuing to make the choice to go deeper with each other. Again, not in a toxic way, not in abusive situations. Nope. Sometimes things do have to end. But when one partner is growing, it's a beautiful honor to both partners for the other partner to be like, wow, how can I grow too? How can I meet my partner when we challenge each other constantly and learn and grow in new ways? That's beautiful. And it's beautiful to make those choices, to keep showing up and keep learning with each other. Anyway, that was a ramble. So I hope that's helpful. Upasana says that's correct. Good. I hope that's really helpful. Lynn says, that's what I'm doing. Very spiritual. Oh, yay. Good. Good luck to you, Lynn. Anna says, have to go soak my foot. Should include my head. Please don't soak your head. Much love and gratitude to you. I'm sending a ton of good vibes and good, like, foot health vibes to you, Anna. All right. Eliana asked a question. I want to scroll back up and find it. And this is going to be the last one for today. Eliana says, hello, will me and Patrick get married? I'm going to tell you right now, Eliana, and I'm sorry if this is disappointing. I am not a fate-based reader. I'm not someone who's like, this is what's going to happen in your future. Because I got to tell you, guess what? Whether you and Patrick get married depends on you and depends on Patrick. And also depends on the circumstances surrounding both of you. And all three of those factors can change at any moment, right? And sometimes for good reasons, like we never know, where life is going to take us. So what I'm going to ask you, just like for yourself, to ask if you want this to happen. And if you do, to ask yourself, what you can either do to move things along or open a discussion about it, because it takes two to tango, right? I got to tell you, when it comes to relationships, it's not fate. It's not the universe. It's two people making decisions, right? So I want to share with you that you are one of those people and you have agency. So let me, having given you that little lecture, and I'm sorry if that was a little bit of a lecture, you probably, if anyone who's tuned in before has probably heard me give this lecture before, because people come on and ask a lot about relationships. Will this person call me? Is this person thinking of me? Is this person going to say they're sorry? Is, this person going to commit to me? And I gotta say, we can't spend our life trying to read other people's minds, but we can spend our lives knowing our own mind and doing our best for ourselves. So that being said, let me ask the cards for you. What's the best you can do for yourself in this context right now with what's going on with Patrick? What I have is the Green Man. I think this is really interesting because the Green Man is a traditionally masculine figure. It came up for you, though, as the best you can do for yourself. And what I really see here, the Green Man, if you are if you are familiar with the traditional Smith-Waite reading, reading style, is analogous to the Emperor. The Green Man, however, is to me a more wholesome version of the Emperor. Someone who knows what he wants, knows how to get it, takes the steps to do so, and honors his will and his desire, while at the same time honoring nature, honoring the environment, honoring the natural order of things. So it's like a more wholesome, less toxic masculinity version of the Emperor, in my opinion. When you are called to be the Green Man, you are being called to be the leader in your life. You are being called to ask yourself what it is you want most and how you can set those things in motion, how you can honor your own desires, how you can show up not in a toxic way, right? We can't force other people to do our bidding, but we can show up and say, hey, guess what? This is what I want to see happen. There's no law against it. You can, with literally anyone and anything in your life, you are allowed to walk into a conversation and say, hey, I got to tell you, this is what I really want to see happen here. It's not a demand. It doesn't mean that the other person has to do what you want, but it's okay to lay our cards on the table and be honest and be like, hey, this is what I'd love to see. So I want you to get clear on what you really want to see happen. And I want you to feel free to verbalize it. I'm not someone who believes that we gain anything by playing games, either in relationships or in our careers or otherwise. I think that we gain by being honest and earnest about what we want and just doing our best for ourselves and doing our best for others that we care about at the same time. So I'm going to ask you what it is you want most, Eliana, and I want to give you permission to speak it, to say, hey, this is what I'd really want to see happen. And we don't have control, right? We don't have control over whether everyone is on the same page as us or whether things move forward at the pace we'd like, but we do have control over whether we show up and advocate for ourselves. And I want to give you permission to do that. And I think that's a good note to end our readings on today. Thank you so much, everybody. This is wonderful. Savannah says, love the Green Man archetype. Yeah, you and me both. I really do. I hope this has been helpful and meaningful for you. Please subscribe, follow me wherever you are watching, because I would love to get to talk to you again. Also, if you enjoyed this, I have a podcast that comes out every month. It's called Sassafras Cast. I will actually be, if you're a patron, I will be recording the live studio recording of the next episode on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So for patrons, tune on in, be a part of the studio audience. That's a special patron benefit. For everyone else, you'll probably see the podcast drop on my feed on Tuesday. And the topic of this month's podcast is going to be ritual and ceremony, ritual and spell work. So I'm excited to talk about that ad nauseum. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Have a great weekend wherever you are. Take good care of yourself and stay hydrated. Bye, my loves.